And Stephanie, the mic is yours.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike. All right, let me share my screen. Fantastic. Well, I'm really excited all of you all are here, and I am sure that we all face some sort of a social dilemma. So this will be something really good for us to dive into. In fact, when I remember when I started in the marketing field years ago, it was before social media was even around. It was a foreign concept. So maybe that dates me a bit, but social media wasn't a thing that it was of the present. In fact, Facebook had just launched. And the rest of the world was trying to figure out, what does a Facebook poke mean? Not a Facebook post, right? A Facebook poke. What does that mean? And why would anyone care to learn about what someone else is doing right here and right now? Businesses didn't have Facebook pages, nor did they share on Instagram stories or in news feeds. They didn't really engage with their customers or potential clients in that way. And the organization I remember that I worked for during that time was actually less worried about being visible on social media and more worried about actually creating a culture within the confines of their own control, where social media was faux pas. In fact, they set parameters, and if anybody was doing any form of social engagement during work, that was a no-no. I had to reprimand many people on my team once social media kind of got up and running, because the organization I worked for was not something that did not want social media to be at the forefront. Interestingly enough, after working at that organization for over a decade, social media became the #1 way that we were promoting our fundraising initiatives. And I came to find that really over that time, so much had changed in the social media world. It had evolved. It had come to a place where the social media dilemma that my previous employer was up against actually evolved into the social dilemma, as now entrepreneurs and small businesses have to figure out how to be visible on it, right? In fact, many businesses nowadays actually have an expectation that their staff, their C-suite employees, the entrepreneurs and startup must be there. It's not a nice to have, it's a must nowadays. And it's become the key way to build authentic connections, really meaningful content, connect people to your brand and your product, spread the word, garner visibility. And for many, it's a one-stop shop. In fact, I see a lot of small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups who actually use social media as their digital footprint instead of a website. So the social dilemma is real. And interestingly enough, I learned a lot about the social dilemma when I watched the movie, The Social Dilemma. I'm interested if any of you guys have watched the movie. If so, say something in the chat about it. But if you haven't, add it to your Netflix must binge, because it is definitely a disturbing video, but brings a lot of things to light in the marketing world. It talks about personally how we face a dilemma and how we engage the world and how social plays on how we think and see one another in business. But as a business owner, it's important to know now how the algorithms work to your benefit. How can you leverage those to help you get more visibility and have more connection with your potential customers and your current ones? So, who am I? And why am I here to talk about social media and the social before I dive in anymore, let me introduce myself. As Mike mentioned, my name is Stephanie Feger. I am the owner, founder, and chief strategist at Empower PR Group, which is a boutique PR marketing agency specifically for small businesses and authors and entrepreneurs. As an author myself, I found that there were a lot of people in this space who had no idea how to navigate the marketing world. So I was really excited to be able to bring Empower PR to life so that I could help people in that world. As an entrepreneur myself, I understand the social dilemma because I face it daily. We all do, right? My time is limited. My resources are limited, and how I maximize my time and resources are really important, because I need to do it in a way to minimize the time that I spend away from my client work, away from any other specific deliverables, my product offerings, services, and direct connection with those who are currently investing in me. However, social media is a key way to grow your business, and it's something you definitely can't can't neglect. I've seen what works. I've worked with many clients from all over the United States, and I see what works and I see what doesn't. I see what's worth your time what gives you success, and what isn't worth your time. And today I want to dive into what those look like. Now, I come from over 15 years of PR and marketing experience in the nonprofit sector, the for-profit, and in healthcare, and most recently in the work I do with authors and small businesses directly. So I'm going to walk you through my personal approach using social media as a way to achieve your goals, as a way to tackle what your dreams are, help you reach where you want to go. And I'm going to share with you, do it kind of through the lens of the top 3 tips that I share with every client that I sit down and work with. So absolutely feel free to ask questions in the chat, although I'm not monitoring that during the call, but we'll have plenty of time at the end, and I'll be able to take a peek at any of those questions and answer any other questions that you may have at that point. So I want to start with the first tip that I share with all of my clients, and that is this. I say engaging on social media without a strategy is like jumping into a pond without a life jacket and you can't swim. Without that strategy, you're destined to sink, right? And the fortunate reality, when you sit back and think of social media and the social dilemma that many entrepreneurs face, is that it's not a cookie cutter approach. You can't just say, hey, go here, do this, do that, and this is what you'll get. Social media has evolved the way we market into a much more conversational and relational experience. And that requires definitely a healthy dose of strategy. Without strategy, you might as well not jump in at all, because sometimes if you do without a strategy, it could do more harm than good. So because there's not a cookie cutter approach, there's actually a lot of right things that you can do. There's not only one right way, there's many, many right ways. So as with anything in business, you've got to have a strategy to be effective. So I want you to sit down, and I don't know if you have a pen and paper next to you, jot down a couple of thoughts here. I want you to ask yourself, first of all, why are you on this call? Why are you interested in this social dilemma, or what is the social dilemma you're up against? And why do you want to be on social media? I think your strategy actually starts with you. Why do you want to invest your time and energy there? What's your reasoning to be on, have a social presence and build your social platform, right? And knowing that purpose is going to help guide you to which platform's the right fit to help meet your needs and help you achieve your goals. So knowing your goals, knowing where your target audience's goals are, both of those are pivotal, and both of those are going to help you find the right social to begin. They're both going to help you begin developing the right social media strategy for you. So before we dive any further, I have to say not all social media platforms are created equal. In fact, knowing your goal is important because it will help you figure out which social media has similar goals to what your goals are. Many of them have different and unique goals. We'll talk about some of those today. And aligning those goals with your goals is going to make the perfect fit. It's going to help you be successful. And again, as an entrepreneur, you're wanting to do what? Maximize the content that you have, your message, all of that stuff by minimizing your time. So we will be looking at that through the lens of social media. But once you know your goals, you've got to also know your target audience's goals. So I wouldn't be a marketer if I didn't take a moment to talk about target audience. You really can't have any strong marketing strategy without knowing who you're trying to reach, where they are, and how you can reach them. So I always start any conversation here. And surely, you probably sat down and identified, 1 to 3 target audiences that might be in your niche, and trickled down really where they are. Now, my favorite part of conversations with any clients I get to work with is when I ask them who they think their target audience is. Most of them say, oh, everyone. Everyone can benefit from my products and services. Everyone has value, can find value in what I offer. And that's true, right? I mean, as a marketer, I have the opportunity to help everyone. But I also believe if you try to help everyone, you may fall short and help no one. So there's like 7 billion people in the world. And if 1% of 1% of 1% of the 7 billion people in the world all like and loved you, that would likely still be more people than you have the capacity to truly engage with and connect with in an authentic and meaningful way. You may not be able to provide enough products to reach that number of people, or if you're trading time for money, you might not have enough one-on-one time to be able to give, right? So niche down really and figure out that 1 to 3 target audiences that really can help move the marble for you, and be unapologetic about them, especially as you're building your social platform and the visibility in your engagement and messages. You want to be unapologetic on who you're trying to reach. I will never forget when my first book came out, I made it very clear that my book was very focused for women, young mothers, in kind of the spiritual space, okay? Unapologetically that way. And yet I still connected with all types of people from all different ages and genders and everywhere in between. So if you're unapologetic of who you are and you speak to it, other people will come to you, but you will still reach your target audience in a deeper way. So once you figure out who your target audience is, you want to ask yourself these particular questions. You want to better understand, great, I know that this might be one bucket of individuals, but go a little bit deeper. Ask yourself this, what's their demographic information? Do they skew to be a younger audience or a more mature audience or somewhere in between? What are their interests and their behaviors? Do they follow certain groups? Are they a part of a like-minded think tanks? Do they like to live their life in interesting ways? Is the imagery what draws them? How do they receive their information, right? Where do they go to look for news? Where do they get their news, and where do they trust their news? Do they want their news in bite-sized nugget informations? Do they look for professional insights regularly? Are they more casual and like more word of mouth or recommendations from some of their like-minded individuals and friends? These are really important things to think about when you sit down and contemplate your target audience, because it's going to influence your social media strategy and therefore help guide you down the right social media platforms to be on. So again, you want to think about your target audience and you want to ask yourself, who are they? And I say niche down to 1 to 3. The more that you can niche, the better. What are the things that they're out there looking for? And where do they go to get their information? These are really important things to think about with your target audience. All right, so the second tip that I give and walk my clients through is this one. When you're starting out in the social media space, it's easier to juggle a few balls than to try to juggle more than your hands could ever hold at once, right? So think about, I can't even juggle one ball. I can't imagine trying to juggle 20 or multiple at one time and do that effectively. Now, I will say that not all marketing professionals agree with me on this topic as it relates to social media. In fact, I had a previous client who recently published a book with another publisher who offered some free marketing in association with the publishing package. And their marketer suggested, I am going to plaster you on every social media platform possible. I'm going to give you all of this visibility and put you everywhere. And I remember this previous client of mine called me and said, help, can I come back? Because Stephanie, you don't believe in tackling things that way, and I don't. I don't think you have to be everywhere all the time to be seen. In fact, I actually think it's smarter for you to scale back a little bit and focus on really where do you need to be that's going to be the most impactful. And where are your people at? And when you do it that way, you can actually be more effective. If you try to spread yourself thin and have too many balls that you're juggling at once, what happens is you're likely to have most of them fall. And on the social media space, if you spend a lot of time trying to be everywhere, but you don't do anywhere perfect or really, really engage at deep levels that are meaningful, you actually could do more harm than good. So my suggestion is, especially when you're starting out, to try to not be visible everywhere, but have purpose, visibility somewhere. Choose a few selective social media platforms to start with and to be on, and really create a meaningful, strategic, purposeful approach to each. So while you're on these platforms, start building your following, building your visibility, start engaging with your current clients. Maybe that's the first way that you start, or your current followers, and then start building to potential followers and really deepen connections with you because social media gives you that opportunity to build a brand loyalty. And that is something that is very hard to break. Once you have a high level of comfortability on your handful of social platforms, that's when you can start inviting other platforms to the mix, right? Once you start juggling one or two, juggling might be a little bit easier and you can start to juggle multiple. So, my suggestion is to start small, start focused, and then build and layer. So, where do you start? That's a great question. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a cookie cutter approach on how to tackle this. But there are a few things that I want you to think about when you're considering what is the starting point for how to break through the social dilemma and start to have a deeper level of meaningful connection and visibility on social. So here's a couple questions I want you to think about. When you consider who your target audience is, I want you to ask yourself these things. How do they utilize social media? And this could be done, you can gather this information by observing some people that you know closely who are a part of your target audience, or you could do some market research. And somewhere in between, you can dabble in both. But the first thing I want you to think about is, do they utilize social media to search for solutions to their problems? Do they look at social media as a way to search? Think about, are they looking for how to do a marketing strategy? Are they looking for how to learn a new hobby or skill? Are they looking for how to find a product that's going to meet their needs? If they're looking for social media through the lens of searching for solutions, you may want to begin your social media visibility platform building on one of the social media platforms that is more of a search engine, like YouTube or Pinterest. Interestingly enough, both of those, while considered social media, really have a lot of search capacity. And if you start there, you might be able to build your visibility as a solution to something they're searching for. And that could be the beginning engagement to a trickled email campaign sequence that connects them deeper to you personally, your business, and your offerings. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, does your target audience look to social media as a tool to validate a business before purchasing from it? Think about it that way. Think about when I'll give you an example. When I was looking for some lawn care recently, well, the first place that I looked was I went online on social to evaluate the validity of some of the lawn care services that were recommended. I looked for reviews and testimonials and endorsements. I looked to see what people were saying about them, the types of services that they provided. I was looking to validate them as a business before I ever purchased from them. If that's something you think your target audience might be looking for, then you might want to look at a platform like LinkedIn or even Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn is a great tool for a business, entrepreneur, startup, small business kind of arena, to have validity for who you are and the message and the products that you're bringing. If you're not on, let's be honest, if you're not on LinkedIn and someone's looking for your business, they might never make it, even if you have a website, because they're going to validate you on that platform. Same thing for Facebook. You might have a Facebook page, or even Instagram is a really great brand identity and brand building platform that people will look at and see if they think that that person or that business aligns with what their goals are, what they're looking for. The third thing I want you to think about when you're considering which platforms to start with is is my target audience using social media as a platform to engage with businesses, my business or others, right? Are they looking to engage? Do they go on social to be able to start a conversation, to ask questions, to be readily connected? And if so, you might want to look at certain platforms that go down that route. Facebook's a fantastic one for that. Even Twitter might be a good one. Another prime example, my family and I was looking for investing in a small business to help us do some furniture refinishing. Looked everywhere, high and low. I actually asked on Facebook for some recommendations, and I was connected to the Facebook page of a local woman who is doing fantastic work for us. She has no website. She has no other social platform except that Facebook page, but that Facebook page allows for us to individually interconnect and engage, as well as at a larger scale for her to engage with her followers. And she's been able to grow that following. So that's another thing to consider when you're thinking about where to start. So make sure you sit back and think with your target audience. How do they look at social media? Do they see it as a way where they can search and find solutions? Do they see it as a way that they can validate before they purchase? Or do they see it as a way that they want to engage with you and or others who have used your products, your services, and your offerings? That may help you determine which platform to start with and to be more focused and intentional in what you're doing. Now, once you pick that platform, my suggestion is twofold for you to consider. The first one is to build out your infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I'm talking about your Facebook page, your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn page for your business. Build that infrastructure in place and let it work for you. So this research you're doing on your target audience, another key thing to add to that is, what are the keywords that my audience searches to get the type of service and solution or product and offering that I bring to the table? Once you know what those keywords are, you can start integrating that into your infrastructure messaging. This is pivotal on LinkedIn, especially because people will search that with their keywords, and that's how they find you. I get many clients just from my LinkedIn profile because I know the words that they're searching for. So build your infrastructure on those platforms by utilizing the keywords, but also ensuring that you have a cohesive overall brand. There's nothing worse than somebody going to your website to take a peek and then going and trying to validate you on LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn is all personal, but your website's all professional. Or maybe it's got the old brand identity and the new one hasn't been updated. You want to look at your social presence as extensions of your digital footprint. Keep a track, get a Word document, get a notepad, write down everywhere that you're building your social presence and your digital footprint, and make sure that when you make any adjustments that you, for consistency purpose, you lay that out on all of the different platforms so that they feel that they have a cohesive journey and experience with you. You definitely don't want them to have a weird brand identity vibe from you before they even dive in. So consider that. All right, the third tip that I share with my clients when we start engaging together, specifically on social, is this. So many people say it's the customer's always right. It's always about the customer. And sure, many times it is. But when it comes to social media, it's not always about them. But when it comes to social, it's also about you. And here's what I mean. Before you dive in, I want you, and even before you think about which social platforms to be on, I want you to ask yourself, how much time and resources do I have to invest in my social media strategy? What am I willing to give and devote to building my online presence, my social presence, and really engaging on the platforms, right? Are you planning? These are more questions for you. Are you planning on managing your social media engagement by yourself? If so, what will be most effective to keep you visible? And being visible, remember, takes time. It's a time investment. And how much time are you willing to give to social daily, weekly, monthly? Think about engagement requires daily interaction, and planning requires monthly strategy discussions and thoughts and content development. So you want to sit back and think, my social presence is only as good as how much time or how much investment I'm willing to give, whether that's time investment or financial investment. Now, rest assured that there are people who have built entire businesses off of how to help you with your social presence, from having a social media manager or content strategist or even a digital business manager. There are people out there who can help you build a strategy and help you build out content. Quite frankly, there's even people who will post all of that for you. So you're not alone, but there is an investment, whether it's a time investment on your end or a financial investment that you're willing to give. And you need to know what investment you're willing to embark upon before you dive in anyway. I'm a big believer in, when you're looking at your social platform, in maximizing your approach and your content. And I'm going to share with you actually the strategy that I use and how I remain visible and build my brand identity on social media. So personally, my social media goals are to really leverage myself as a thought leader, which in turn helps me sell books, helps me secure clients, and helps me build my speaking engagements, right? So all of that is hinged on this capacity of me being kind of forward thinking and a thought leader in the spaces that my businesses live in. So I'm on several social platforms. However, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram are the ones where my target audiences tend to live. So those are the ones that I always focus on first. Remember the juggling the balls, those are the three balls I keep up. And then I find ways to integrate the content on other channels. So here's how I do it. And this is a way to maximize your content, really squeeze everything out of what you've got. So for me, every time I'm sitting down to consider a social media approach or social media strategy, I start with what content do I have to share? Now, sometimes that's new content that I create. Is it a new blog that I've written, or is it a new podcast I was on? Is it a new webinar or a workshop that I have coming up? Is it a video or a vlog that I've done, right? I've got some new content, some content that I think is really meaningful and timely and relevant. And from that content, what I do is I'll share it to my email list. I'll share the content broadly to social, but I don't do it once and stop, because that means that I have to create more content. And the more content you create, the more time it's taken away from possibly paid clients that you're dealing with right now versus potential clients. So I like to squeeze every ounce of opportunity out of what I have from the content that I create. And how I do that is, once the content's created, I go back through with a fine tooth comb and I pull out any subtopics that I think I could elaborate on. For instance, if I write a blog about social media, I might be able to pull out upwards of 15 to 20 subtopics about social media in general that I can use as fodder for additional social content. So I'll do that by pulling out quotes. I'll pull out the key topics that maybe my overarching blog or podcast didn't highlight, but it's still relevant and connected to that content. And I'll use that and I'll create some beautiful social graphics. I love Canva as a tool for that. If you're not familiar with Canva, you should. It's fantastic. So you can use that as a way to build some beautiful social media images to help elaborate and to help build upon your presence on social, specifically also on the Instagram page or the Instagram platform. So I'll build it out, I'll pull quotes, subtopics, and I'll build graphics. And then I use that as conversation tools for me to drop and schedule into my social media approach. Now, I am not a big fan of using social media schedulers that are outside of the inherent social media platform, because for instance, some of those platforms, if you try to schedule through Hootsuite or another type of platform, the social media outlet knows that, and it may not give you as much visibility as if you use their inherent schedulers. So I will go in and I will post where I can and schedule content where I can so that I can breathe through the rest of the month, but I know I have some social visibility and presence happening while I am working. And then from that point, what I do is I start to adapt all of that content. So, I might have a really beautiful quote that's got some words to ponder and something to reflect upon. And I might share that on Instagram. I might, share quotes on Instagram daily for the next 3 weeks to give life and legs to that content I've created. On Facebook, in my personal page as well as in my business page, I might drop some content a couple of times a week. I might do a post on LinkedIn or where I'm pulling out a quote or building upon the topic a bit more once a week or so. All of it through the lens of keeping the conversation going so I remain relevant and the topic has continual legs to build energy and interest and engagement. But the end goal too is the more content that you share and the more visibility that you garner is to get people to connect with you at a deeper level. So most of that I do is all that funnel, that content funnel. So it starts with the content, opens up with the broad reach. And the goal is to get people onto your email list so that you can build a nurturing sequence that drives conversion. Right. So you want to build something, a drip welcome campaign, for example, that converts somebody from just being someone who might be interested in what you bring to the table to someone who is now purchasing from you. So I know that there's several steps there, but if you take a step back and you really are meaningful and purposeful in your content strategy, you'll find you're not creating all of this new content. You're really maximizing your content. So speaking of all of the different platforms we've talked about, I want to give you one tip of each of the 6 platforms that I typically recommend for entrepreneurs, small businesses, to start with. Just kind of a tip that I've learned along the way, um, and something that I found to be really helpful for me. So the first one is for LinkedIn. So I do a lot of work with my clients on helping them optimize their LinkedIn profile. I love LinkedIn for so many reasons, but one of my favorite reasons for loving LinkedIn is if you have an amazing profile that is optimized, you don't have to do a ton of engagement on LinkedIn. In fact, your profile will do the work for you. So make sure that your personal profile is strong and it's searchable. And what I mean by that is those keywords that we were talking about earlier. Make sure you're integrating that into your about section and your experience sections throughout LinkedIn, because that will help draw and pull people in to find you. I get several clients regularly engaging with me on LinkedIn, and it's helped grow my business personally. And also ensure if you have a business, if your business is independent of who you are, and or if it's the same, build out a business page on LinkedIn. It's not, you don't have to do a ton of engagement on it if you don't have the energy, but it does make your business have a different level of professionalism when someone goes and looks through your experience on LinkedIn. The other thing about LinkedIn I don't have listed here, but I think it's really important to note, if thought leadership is something that intrigues you, something that you want to tackle and try to go down, LinkedIn articles are something I suggest for so many of my clients, and using that as an opportunity to leverage any blogs that you write and or that you want to just do on LinkedIn solely. And that's because the LinkedIn article function is searchable outside of LinkedIn. In fact, a lot of people go looking at those articles, and they could really help you extend your reach. So, huge LinkedIn fan. The next one that I want to give a tip on is on Facebook. So I'm actually going to go a different route than just talking about Facebook in general. Although, of course, optimizing your infrastructure, your profile, and developing a business page is really important on Facebook. But what I really love about Facebook is their advertising options, right? If you haven't done any Facebook advertising, and I'm not talking about Facebook boosts, um, I'm not a big fan of Facebook boosts. I'm talking about the focused advertising that you can really target and niche down. The problem is you can't do it if you don't have a business page. If you only have your personal page on Facebook, you will not be able to do a Facebook ad. So you must start building a business page and getting followers and your clients to join. So you'll want to make sure that you have a strategy for your business page on Facebook so that you get engagement and people follow you. When they do, then you have the wonderful opportunity to do some Facebook advertising, which is talking about maximizing your dollars. Is very, very low cost with a very high return. And if you've got a really strong business page with lots of followers, then you can do what I like to call a what they call a lookalike audience advertising campaign, which in my experience has had some of the most effective ROI. So I'm a big fan of that. YouTube. So if you have watched The Social Dilemma, or if you've listened to the podcast that is from the New York Times, The Rabbit Hole, then you will know a lot about the kind of the YouTube evolution. And there's some really beautiful things about YouTube that you can use to your benefit. And one of those is that as you're building your YouTube presence, you can actually build a customer journey or visitor journey for those who are watching your videos. So you have the opportunity to do suggested videos to come next in your series. So if you have them come to your YouTube channel and they listen to one video, you can create other additional videos that become the suggested videos that are next, taking them on the journey that you want them to go down. And it can end with a paid offer. So maybe it's showing them how to do something within your business, right? Maybe let's say you're in the business of helping people, helping recruit people and get people in new positions, right? So maybe you start with a YouTube video that focuses on how to build your resume or how to focus on your LinkedIn presence. And as you start going in your videos, you could also have an offer where it's the one-on-one coaching or an evergreen online program that could give them additional deep dives should they want. So you can really use YouTube as an option for that. In regards to Instagram, you know, hashtags are pivotal. Do some research, find out what your target audience is looking at with hashtags, and use those regularly, partnered with some beautiful brand imagery. And you will actually reach people all over the world. My presence on Instagram is some of my favorite because it allows me to do a massive reach to people I would never have connected with before, because we have like-minded thoughts. And when you use hashtags in the right way, um, with the brand and images, it can really help extend your brand. In regards to Pinterest, remember, Pinterest is a search engine as well. So think about what's a freebie offer that you can use as a lead magnet, and how can you create several pins to align with that in ways that are going to engage your target audience and get them on your email list. Right. So is it that you have a free offer that your business can provide? Maybe it's some tips. Let's say you own, let's go back to the landscaping company. Maybe you own some, your goal is to help people to opt into your mosquito treatment. So maybe you offer some free tips on Pinterest that they can easily get 5 tips on how to decrease mosquitoes in your backyard. And then, hey, click here and you can get a discount to join my, to get a discount for a mosquito treatment. So be thinking about using Pinterest as a way to engage people in who you are, what your business offers, and get them on your email list. Once they're on your email list, then you can start doing nurturing campaigns to get them to move forward with conversion. Finally, in regards to Twitter, I think Twitter is a great place for you to kind of follow and engage with people that you look up to in your industry and even beyond. Because if you're following and engaging with people that are in your industry, what's likely happening is other people are seeing that engagement and they might want to follow you back. Another thing to consider too, of course, coming from the PR marketing space, is to share that you should also follow some media outlets and media personalities, because they do a lot of times ask questions, and it very well could position your business for some media coverage. All right, I know I've spoken a lot about different ways to navigate social media, and I just wanted to share, as I was pulling this together for you guys, I realized it might be helpful to have some sort of a place for you to jot down notes and think through some of this strategy. So I have a entrepreneur's guide to the social dilemma that I've created specifically for you guys. It's a free printable workbook. It's going to walk you through all of this stuff, but it's going to give you the opportunity to reflect in more deep and meaningful ways for what we talked about today. So I just wanted to share that with you. You would go to empowerprgroup.com/entrepreneurs-guide-social-dilemma to get access to that workbook. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that, because I do realize that social dilemmas are endless opportunities and can also be endless dilemmas if you don't know how you're tackling it. You know, what platforms are you supposed to be on? How much should you invest your time and energy into it? What's your overall strategy? And how does social media play a part of all of that? That is a dilemma, but my intention is, through this conversation and this workbook and any ways that I can support and engage you in it, is to turn that dilemma into an opportunity and make them work for your business today and beyond as your business evolves. Okay, so I am going to open it up if you all have any questions. I think I saw something come in on the chat, but Mike, I can't see it. So if you don't mind letting me know if there was any questions in the chat box, and if any of you all have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I might have buried it, but I don't think there were actually any questions in the chat. They're just comments, and I know I made a few. Like, for example, Gary V loves LinkedIn at the moment for businesses because, for example, Facebook, you kind of get capped at your visibility, and then you need to pay for ads and sponsorship ads. Whereas LinkedIn, there's really no limit or cap to your visibility. So it's a great, for now at least. So get in there.
Right. The interesting thing about the social dilemma is it constantly evolves. So just when you get comfortable, just know that you might have to get in the uncomfortable again and keep evaluating what that looks like. But I'm in complete agreement with you there.
Stephanie, I know I have a question right off the bat, and actually, Kathleen asks if you can drop that link from your PowerPoint and put it in the chat.
Yeah.
But while you're doing that, my question is revolving around conversions. So for example, my brother and I started a business in Michigan. We've started using TikTok. It is blowing up. He's really had some great viral moments already. And I want to make sure that we are making conversions out of this.
Yep.
Um, his videos are very much educational, and on the page he obviously redirects to our Facebook, so we kind of get some omni-channel work in there. But how do I make sure and somehow track the conversions of this growing audience? um, how do I even know, for example, that when a purchase is made, that they are coming through a Facebook versus TikTok, or what is more valuable for us to work on? Because while he's producing
Yep.
great content on TikTok and people are following him, it's blowing up. But if we get zero sales out of it, what's it worth?
Right. And that's why I say, and when I work with my clients, I always say focus on a handful of ones that are strong, that we know, builds that presence and that visibility, and then pepper in the new opportunities as they come. Because TikTok's great today. Will it be great tomorrow? I don't know. Clubhouse, great today. Will it be great tomorrow? I don't know. I have several clients who have tried some of the other new platforms, spent a ton of energy in them, and then those platforms went away. Um, I would say the best way to do it is to ensure that you are literally you are finding a way in either your content at the bottom of the videos and the bottom of your messaging, anything that's driving them to something that's very specific. You can get specific URLs that are trackable, and that URL can connect back to your website, to your offer, to your lead magnet. But that is how you're going to find out and make it really custom to that particular outreach. I will say throw caution to the wind of the fun things and the exciting things, because they're great and they might get fantastic visibility, but also know what's your goal. I mean, YouTube, some people just love doing YouTube, have no calls to actions, but they get so many followers that now they get advertising and they get paid that way. That could be something that, is a part of your goal. But if you're trying to drive people back to you, you need to find a way to leverage a system outside of the social platform where you can actually see those conversions. So whether that's through your email collector form or through a link that is trackable, that's how I would suggest. But that is the tough part.
When you talk about the trackable links,
Yeah.
is there a platform that you like to use, or
I don't have one in particular, but I'll follow back up with you on a couple that I recommend. You can share with the group.
there is a couple of questions now in the chat. Ian says, I've got an online business that sells consumer electronics. My questions are, is SEO still workable for 2021? And how
Mhm.
much do I need to set aside for social media marketing?
Well, I think that social media marketing investment can fluctuate based on what your business goals are, right? So, I mean, I'll give you, for instance, you could do, and it depends on how much your investment is. So, your time investment. So, are you willing to invest some of your own energy? And if so, then you can learn a lot of these tools and strategies, and you could do for $100 a month, you could do some Facebook advertising that could be really beneficial, right? Or on the flip side, if you don't have that time, you could spend a couple thousand a month, and really, get some effective marketing as well. So it really kind of can go between the two. But I will say, if you're doing any advertising outside of social, um, I would be really focused on that, because I don't actually suggest a lot of that for my clients anymore. I think social advertising is, if you're going to make an investment, that's the way to go. You had a second question, but I just answered one. What was the second question, Mike?
It said, is SEO still workable in
Is
2021?
SEO still workable? I do believe so. And if you get SEO right, then it works phenomenally. I have a client who we were just talking yesterday about if you were to search one particular word, there's a blog that she wrote like 5 years ago, and it is number one on the SEO list. Like, she write that word in, it pops up, it drops so much to her website, and it helps her now that she's got some evergreen content, to be able to convert and to track. So it is. So I would continue to look into that for sure.
John might have been commenting on my TikTok question, but he says, can the TikTok links have unique URL identifier tags to track ROI? And I think from what you were saying, Stephanie, that's the case, right? We would just,
I think so. I don't do a ton of work on TikTok. So that is not a platform that I typically suggest my clients to go on. Now, again, you got to keep in mind a lot of my people are more conservative. They are more, author focused and build businesses off of that. But if they don't, they will, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to track that.
Jake says, I have trouble finding best in class social media sites to emulate, learn from. Is there a good source for finding the best in class organizations to emulate? And, I think it's a great question. If there was like a compiled list somewhere to,
Mhm.
businesses to keep an eye on, that'd be awesome. Obviously, like there's the Wendy's and Wendy's Twitter that all they do is troll all the time, and that's how they get popular. But do they talk about how good the quality burgers are? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that Disney is great for customer experience kind of example too, right? My suggestion, I don't personally know of a list, although that would be something great, Jake, that maybe we would be beneficial if we created. But I do think my recommendation for you would be to take a peek at people in and businesses in your industry and follow them. Watch what's happening in your industry. So think about where you want your business to go in the next few years, 5 to 10 years, and follow those people on social. What are the types of things that they're doing? What are they talking about? How are they asking questions with their clients and their current followers? And I think that will help you figure out the right kind of approach for you on social. Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a cookie cutter approach. That's a good thing and not a good thing. It would be so nice if it was just a cookie cutter strategy approach, but it's not. So just because something works fantastic for a business that you look up to, you might be able to add a unique layer of authenticity and meaningful approach and engagement that could actually have you outrun that particular competitor.
And I'm assuming, Jake, you're talking about Toggle Health, which Toggle Health is business to B2B. Do you have any suggestions in particular for B2B social media?
I don't. A lot of the work that I do is B2C. Um, but I still think, I'm thinking about when I was working in corporate America and the approaches that we would take. Yeah, I don't have any specific suggestions or tips, but Jake, if you want to reach out, I can do some research on this and connect with you further and give you some more thoughts.
John said, for folks that leverage content marketing for expert positioning, any tips for cutting through the noise and volume on LinkedIn?
That's a great question. Yes. So on LinkedIn's one of my favorite platforms. So first things first, make sure that you know who your target audience is for your business or for you if you're trying to do content positioning or expert positioning and thought leadership. Know who your target audience is, and connect with those people as best as you can. In the beginning, as I was building my LinkedIn presence, I was connecting with as many of those people that made meaningful sense as possible without sending salesy messages. That is one of the first ways to ruin a relationship with a new contact on LinkedIn is to send a salesy message. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just stay away from that. But I'm a big believer in leveraging LinkedIn articles. So figure out what about your business is your key differentiator. Why do people work with you? Why do they like to work with you? What makes you different from somebody else in this space? And start writing on it. Short, sweet, brief articles, and share those regularly. I have a client who has done that over the course of several years. Her following on LinkedIn and beyond is ridiculously awesome, and she is very successful in her one-on-one and consulting work. So I think it's about figuring out your key differentiator and making sure that the people who currently are connected with you are people that are in your target audience.
Great question.
Yeah, really great question.
There are no more in the chat. Obviously, we still have some time if you have any other questions. I've got one in particular that I love to ask. I'm very much a tangible question asker, so I love questions like, what tools do you use? And I know you mentioned Canva already, and you mentioned that you don't like scheduling tools, which I never heard of, but
I
now
know.
I keep an eye on because I use Buffer, so maybe I should not
Yep.
use that anymore. But what tools do you like to use when you are, whether it be in the creation, it be the management of your posts, it be the conversions of your post, the continued engagement with customers? What tools do you use for that funnel, for that process?
Absolutely. So I know, I mean, Mike, I am a non-traditional marketer. So many marketers are going to say, use the schedulers. You can do it if you want. Again, there's a trade, right? You've got to evaluate how much time do you have, and how much energy are you willing to put in. I have just found over time that it is very easy to mess something up with a scheduling tool, and you accidentally mean to post something on Instagram, but it posts on Facebook and has all these hashtags, and everyone knows that Facebook isn't about hashtags. And then it just makes your brand look different. And, anyway, so I'm just a big believer that you should use the scheduling tools that are inherent within the platform. I know Facebook, I do a lot of my scheduling through Facebook, and Facebook and Instagram can be interconnected. That makes it really easy to schedule. I honestly don't use any other schedulers. Then I go ahead, and since I only post on LinkedIn maybe once a week, where it's meaningful to me, because a lot of people aren't reading through the LinkedIn stuff like they do on other social platforms. Posting once a week is not a big deal. So that's the scheduling component that I use. In regards to creation of beautiful graphics, I'm a huge fan of Canva. And the paid version of Canva is very affordable, and it opens doors to so many really fantastic things too. Lots of beautiful imagery that you can use. I will say this. I will say Canva opens the door for you to not have to get a graphic designer involved. However, if you don't have a design bone in your body, it will also show in your Canva designs. So I have had many clients who are like, Stephanie, I'm going to save money and I'm going to go do all this. And then I go, oh my gosh, just pay me to do this, or whatever. Don't do it. Like, let's get a template design in place. And so if design is not in your wheelhouse, you can work with somebody to create you a suite of Canva templates that you can use and easily update, and that creates a beautiful consistency. In regards to videos, if you're on the YouTube space, I'm a Mac fan. I use iMovie, very intuitive, and I've also used Loom, which is a great tool to do some video capture that you could upload to YouTube, and listed or unlisted. And then in regards to email strategy and sequence. So this is my motto in life. It's, if it's free, it's for me. Like, I need to test before I invest. So any of the platforms that are making you pay oodles of money before you even step in, I don't say do it. Mailchimp is still what I use, and I joined Mailchimp for my CRM and email management a long time ago. I'm still in the free version. There's limitations, of course, but I've worked around it. And if any of my clients aren't using an email marketing campaign or strategy, I use Mailchimp and recommend that they do that. There's other really good email platforms like ConvertKit and such that you can use, but I don't know, I'm a Mailchimp loyalist, I guess. It's just easy, easy and kind of user friendly. And then the other thing, and I didn't talk a lot about this today in regards to like creating evergreen content, online courses, extensions of your business. Think about the fact that your target audience, there's two types within that niche. There's people who are going to spend money over time or value money over time. And then there's people who are going to value time over money. So some of your audience members are more willing to say, I don't really want to pay you for a lot, but I want to learn a lot. So I'm going to invest my time. Whereas other people are saying, I don't want to spend my time. I'm just going to pay you to do this, right? Or pay to buy your product. I use a program that's called Member Vault, or a platform that's called Member Vault. You may have heard of Podia or Teachable or other platforms like that. Member Vault is a newer platform that I've absolutely loved, but it's a great way to house some online content, to even create some evergreen courses that can be a part of your email and marketing sequence, and could help the cash register ring while you're sleeping. And wouldn't that be lovely for us entrepreneurs?
I haven't heard that last one, so thank you.
Oh, I love it. It's fairly new. You should try it out.
Say it one more time.
Member Vault.
Member Vault.
Yeah.
We've got time maybe for one more question if there is any left. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit stop then.